The crash had turned my ship into a smoking crater, and me into the universe's loneliest fool. I'd stumbled through 3 days of violet-leafed forests and crystalline streams, my emergency beacon silent, my hope dwindling. The planet designated XR447 in the charts now felt like my tomb, beautiful, deadly, and utterly indifferent. That's when I saw her. She stood at the forest's edge, backlit by bioluminescent flowers that pulsed like heartbeats. Fox ears twitched atop her head, russet fur catching the alien twilight. Her tail swayed with predatory grace, and her amber eyes locked onto me with an intensity that froze me mid-step. My voice cracked. "I mean no harm." She tilted her head, those impossible ears swiveling toward me. Then she moved faster than anything human and gripped my wrist. Her touch was warm, her fingers surprisingly gentle despite the strength I felt coiled beneath. "Wait, I need to find shelter. Search for." She pulled me away from the path I'd been taking, her expression stern. When I tried to resist, she simply lifted me and carried me deeper into the forest. My protests died when I saw what lay on the path behind us. The ground had collapsed into a chasm of writhing, translucent tendrils that hissed at the air. She set me down near a cave entrance, its walls lined with those same glowing flowers. For the first time, she made a sound, a soft, chirping vocalization that somehow felt like a question. "Thank you," I breathed, my heart still hammering. "I'm Cade, human, very lost human." She circled me, nose twitching, then pointed at the cave with a decisive gesture. Home. This was to be home. Over the following days, I learned her language wasn't words but intentions. When I tried to leave the cave's vicinity, she'd appear from nowhere, blocking my path with crossed arms and a warning growl that vibrated through my chest. When I gestured toward the distant mountains where my beacon might reach orbit, she'd shake her head so violently her ears flopped. "I need to signal for rescue," I explained on the 4th day, using exaggerated gestures. "My people, up there." She followed my pointing finger to the sky, then looked back at me with something like sadness. She placed a hand over my chest, right above my heart, and shook her head again. That night, as I lay on the surprisingly soft moss she'd gathered for bedding, I noticed her watching from the cave entrance. Moonlight. This world had 2 moons painted her silhouette in silver. She wasn't guarding me, she was guarding against something. "What are you protecting me from?" I whispered. Her ears drooped slightly and she turned away, disappearing into the forest. But I heard her nearby all night, a soft rustling presence that somehow made the alien darkness less frightening. I named her Kira in my mind. It meant light in a dead earth, language I didn't yet understand how right that name would prove to be. Kira brought me food the next morning, fruits that looked like crystallized honey and tasted like sweet electricity. She sat closer this time, watching me eat with those unblinking amber eyes. When I offered her a piece, her ears perked up with what I could only interpret as surprise. "You didn't expect sharing." I smiled. "Where I come from, that's how we build trust." She took the fruit delicately, her fingers brushing mine. The contact lasted a heartbeat longer than necessary, and I noticed the faintest tint of color beneath her fur. Could she blush? I began teaching her my language, pointing at objects and speaking their names. She mimicked the sounds with startling accuracy, though her voice held a melodic quality that made even simple words sound like songs. "Rock, water, sky." Then I pointed at myself. "Cade," she repeated it, then touched her own chest. "Kira." My heart skipped. "You understand." Her tail swished. I'd learned this meant amusement, and she tapped her temple. "Not stupid," the gesture implied. "I never thought you were," I said softly. "I just didn't expect this." As days blended together, we developed routines. She'd wake me by draping her tail across my face, a habit I pretended to hate but secretly found endearing. I'd cook the strange foods she brought, using techniques that fascinated her. She'd lean close, so close I could feel her breath, studying my hands as they worked. "No," I said during one of these moments, "where I come from." When someone watches this intently, it usually means they're interested in more than just the cooking. She tilted her head, not understanding the words but catching my tone. I made an exaggerated, flirtatious expression, and her ears shot straight up. Then she deliberately mimicked my expression, leaning even closer until our noses almost touched. "Playing with fire." "Kira," I murmured. She made a questioning chirp. "It means dangerous fun." Her eyes gleamed with understanding, and she maintained the distance close enough that I could count individual lashes around those amber pools, far enough that I had to consciously resist closing the gap. One evening, I made the mistake of trying to leave again. I'd spotted what looked like a clear path to higher ground, and my training screamed that elevation meant better signal range. Kira intercepted me within seconds. But this time, she didn't just block my path. She wrapped her arms around me from behind, her face pressed against my shoulder blade. She was trembling, Kira. She held tighter, and I felt wetness seeping through my shirt. Tears. She was crying. I turned in her embrace, and she didn't let go, just adjusted to press her face against my chest. Her ears were flattened against her head in obvious distress. "Hey, I'm sorry." I stroked her hair instinctively, and she leaned into the touch. "I won't go. I promise I won't go." She pulled back just enough to look up at me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears and something else, something that made my breath catch. Then, with deliberate slowness, she took my hand and placed it over her heart. It raced beneath my palm, a frantic drumbeat that matched my own. "Yeah," I whispered, "I feel it too." Part 3. The things she knew understanding came in fragments, like learning to read by starlight. Kira began drawing in the soft dirt outside our cave crude but effective pictures that told a story I desperately needed to hear. She drew my ship, then X marks across the landscape, danger zones. Then she drew stick figures, humans, I assumed with their heads surrounded by scribbled circles. When she saw my confusion, she made an eerie gesture, her hands floating near her ears, fingers wiggling while her eyes went vacant. "Something calls to humans," I guessed, like a signal. Her enthusiastic nod confirmed it. She drew more. Humans walking toward cliff edges, into carnivorous plants, through the territories of massive predators, all with those same scribbled circles around their heads. "The planet is psychically hostile to humans specifically." Another nod. Then she pointed at herself, shook her head, and tapped her temple emmuned. The pieces fell into brutal clarity. Every time I'd tried to wander, I hadn't been thinking clearly. I'd been following subconscious compulsions toward beautiful deaths. Kira hadn't been imprisoning me. She'd been the only thing standing between me and a world that whispered suicide in frequencies I couldn't consciously hear. "How long?" I asked, my voice hollow. "How long would I survive out there alone?" She held up 3 fingers. "Maybe 3 days, maybe 3 hours. Either way, pathetically short." I sat down hard, and she immediately curled against my side, her tail wrapping around my waist. It should have felt strange, this alien intimacy, but instead, it felt like the first safe thing in weeks. "You saved my life," I said, "over and over, and I kept fighting you." She nuzzled against my shoulder, making soft, comforting sounds. Then, with what seemed like great effort, she formed words. "Cade, stay. You've been learning more than I taught you, haven't you?" Her tail tightened. "Cade, stick." With Kira, the vulnerability in those halting words broke something in my chest and rebuilt it differently. I cupped her face, thumbs brushing along her cheekbones, and her eyes fluttered closed. "I'm not going anywhere, I promised." She opened her eyes, and the relief there transformed into something warmer, something that made her lean into my touch until her lips were a breath away from my palm. She kissed it until questioning, and waited for my reaction. I should have pulled back, maintained boundaries, remembered my training about first contact protocols and cultural contamination. Instead, I drew her closer, and she came willingly, eagerly, until she was in my lap with her arms around my neck. "This is crazy," I whispered against her temple. She pulled back just enough to look at me, her expression archly amused, despite her limited words. "Cade, fire," she said, throwing my own phrase back at me. "Dangerous. Fun." I laughed, surprised and delighted. "You've got a memory like a trap." She touched my smile with one curious finger, then traced my lips with gentle fascination. Her own lips parted slightly, and I realized she was learning me the same way she learned everything, through careful observation and fearless experimentation. When she kissed me, it was nothing like I'd expected and everything I'd secretly hoped for. Unpracticed but sincere, tentative but full of feeling. She made a small sound of surprise when I returned the kiss with more confidence, then melted against me with a purr that vibrated through both our bodies. We broke apart breathless, and she looked at me with wonder. "Beautiful," I said, touching her face. "You're so beautiful, Kira." She understood the tone, if not all the words, and repeated, "Beautiful, Cade." We spent that night closer than before. Her body curled into mine as bioluminescent flowers pulsed their gentle light around us. Her fingers traced idle patterns on my chest, and I played with her hair, marveling at how something so impossible could feel so inevitable. "What happens when rescue comes?" I asked. The darkness, her fingers stilled, then gripped my shirt tightly. She didn't answer, but I felt the answer in the way she held on, as if I might disappear with the dawn. 3 weeks into my unintended exile, my emergency beacon finally found a response. The distant ping of an approaching ship echoed from my salvaged communicator, and I should have felt relief, joy, the promise of home. Instead, I felt my stomach dropped. Kira stood at the cave entrance, her ears pinned back, her tail completely still. She'd heard it to her senses far sharper than mine. When she looked at me, I saw my own conflict mirrored in her eyes. "They're coming," I said unnecessarily. "My people, they found me." She approached slowly, as if I might spook. When she reached me, she took the communicator from my hands and studied it with an expression I'd learned meant deep thought. Then she did something that shocked me. She raised it to her mouth and spoke a single, clear word into it. "Stay." The response was immediate, crackling through the device. "Survivor, identify yourself. Are you under duress? Repeat, are you under duress?" I took the communicator back, my hand shaking. "This is Cade Torin, merchant vessel Silverdawn. I'm safe, but the planet is dangerous for humans, psychically hostile. I've only survived because how did I explain her? The fox girl who'd become my whole world. Because local life forms have protective capabilities, I finished lamely. Understood. Extraction team will arrive at your coordinates in 6 hours. Prepare for pickup. 6 hours. That was all I had left with her. Kira pulled me outside, into the forest that had become as familiar as home. She led me to places I'd never seen: a waterfall that fell upward, defying gravity in shimmering spirals, a grove where the trees sang in harmonies that made my chest ache, a pool of water so clear it reflected not the sky above but some other sky, some other world. She showed me her world, and I understood she was saying goodbye. At the singing grove, she turned to me, her expression determined. She'd been practicing, I realized, because the words came more smoothly now. Cade, stay. Kira, show love. My throat tightened. Kira, she pressed a finger to my lips, then replaced it with her own mouth. This kiss wasn't exploratory or tentative, it was desperate, pleading, a whole conversation compressed into the press of lips and the tangle of breath. I kissed her back with equal fervor, my hands in her hair, her body pressed against mine with nothing held back. We sank into the soft moss together, and she looked at me with a question in her eyes. Despite her limited words, her meaning was crystal clear. How much of yourself will you share before you go? Everything, I breathed. I want to share everything with you. What followed was tender and intense, awkward and perfect, a fumbling discovery of how two different worlds could align in the most fundamental way. She was patient with my carefulness, bold in her own curiosity, and when we finally lay tangled together in the aftermath, I felt tears on my cheeks that I couldn't blame on her. I don't want to go, I confessed to the alien sky. For the first time in my life, I don't want to go home. She curled impossibly closer, her tail wrapping around my leg possessive. Cade, stay, she whispered again, but this time it sounded less like a command and more like a prayer. I can't, I said, hating myself for it. My people, they'll worry. They'll send more ships, and if they think you're holding me captive. She flinched at that, and I immediately pulled her back. No, not like that. I mean, they won't understand what we have, what you've given me. She was quiet for a long moment, then, Cade, teach Kira go. My heart cracked. You want to come with me? Her ears perked up with fragile hope. I thought of her in a starship, in stations and cities, in the vast human worlds where nothing glowed naturally and the air smelled of recycled nothing. I thought of scientists studying her, bureaucrats questioning her, people who'd see her as alien first and person second. Then I thought of myself without her, and that was somehow worse. We'll figure it out, I promised, knowing I was making a vow I had no authority to keep. Somehow, we'll figure it out together. The extraction ship arrived on schedule, descending through the violet canopy with mechanical precision. The team that emerged wore full environmental suits, their weapons drawn against potential threats. Kira growled low in her throat. Stepping in front of me protectively, I placed a hand on her shoulder, stepping up beside her. Stand down, I called out. She's with me. She's the reason I'm alive. The team leader's voice came through external speakers. Sir, please step away from the indigenous life form. We're here to extract you safely. I'm perfectly safe. I laced my fingers through Kira's and felt her grip tighten. And she comes with me, or I don't go at all. The standoff lasted approximately 30 seconds before Captain Rivera emerged from the ship. Her helmet retracted, her expression carved from pure exasperation. Torin, you always were a pain in my ass, she said without preamble. Someone want to explain why my rescue mission turned into a hostage negotiation? She's not my captor, I said firmly, Kira's hand still in mine. She's my savior. This planet produces psychic interference that compels humans toward fatal accidents. Without her intervention, I'd have been dead in days. Rivera's eyes sharpened. She'd made captain by being smart, not just lucky. And you discovered this how? By trying to leave and being stopped every single time. I gestured at Kira. She's immune to the effect, and apparently decided one stubborn human was worth saving repeatedly. The captain approached slowly, hands visible and empty. Kira's ears swiveled toward her, tracking every movement, but she didn't growl again. Progress. She understands you, Rivera asked. Some we've been teaching each other. Kira the fox girl said carefully, pointing at herself. Then at me, Cade, then at Rivera with a questioning chirp. Captain Elena Rivera, the captain said, matching Kira's serious tone. Thank you for protecting my officer. Kira's tail swished amusement. She liked Rivera already. The captain turned to me. The company will have questions. Xenobiology will want examinations. LEGO will have seizures over first contact protocols. And you're telling me you want to bring her into that circus? I'm telling you I won't leave her behind, I corrected. Figure out the rest however you need to. Rivera studied us, both our joined hands, the way Kira leaned into my space, how I angled toward her unconsciously. A slow smile spread across the captain's weathered face. Oh, Torin, you didn't just survive here, you fell in love. I felt heat rise in my cheeks, but I didn't deny it. Beside me, Kira made a questioning sound at the word love. I'd taught her many things, but not that. Not yet. I turned to her, keeping it simple. Love. When someone becomes your... I touched my chest, then hers. Your heart. Your home. Her eyes widened, then softened impossibly. She touched my face with both hands, cradling it gently. Cade. Kira, love. Yeah, I breathed. Kira, Cade, love. Rivera cleared her throat pointedly. Adorable, truly. But we need to make a decision. This planet is flagged for a full research team, which means more ships, more people who won't have immunity. If she's willing to help, no, I said immediately. She's not becoming a test subject or a tool. Then she could save lives. Rivera continued over my objection, teaching us about the psychic interference, helping establish safe zones, all voluntary, all compensated, all under protections I'll personally guarantee. Kira tugged my sleeve. Help, she'd learned that word early. Kira, help humans. You don't have to, I said. You don't owe us anything. She shook her head firmly, then pointed at me, then at the ship, then made a sweeping gesture at the sky. Cade world. Kira, see. Kira, help. She smiled, something mischievous in it. Dangerous fun. I laughed despite everything. You're going to fit in perfectly. You realize that. The next hours were a blur of preparations. Rivera's team took biosamples with Kira's calm permission and documented the psychic interference phenomenon. Every human who strayed too far from Kira reported the same compulsions I'd experienced, the same siren call toward beautiful death's dot as they worked. Kira stayed close to me, her tail wrapped around my wrist like a tether. When night fell on this world one last time, we stood at the cave entrance together. You're sure? I asked. This world is yours. Out there is unknown. She considered this, then pulled me down to her level and kissed me soft and sweet and full of promise. When she pulled back, she spoke carefully, using the words I'd taught her over weeks of quiet companionship. Cade, is Kira home? Kira, go. Where Cade go, even if it's scary, even if it's difficult. Cade, stay. When scary, she reminded me. When difficult. Kira, same. Fair point. I'd stayed because she wouldn't let me leave, and then because I couldn't imagine leaving. Now she was choosing the same thing, but with full knowledge, full agency. Together then, I said. Together, she repeated, the word sure and strong. The ship lifted off at dawn, leaving behind a world of glowing forests and singing trees. I watched through the viewport as XR-447 shrank to a point of light, feeling the pull of it even through the ship's shielding. Kira pressed against my side, one hand over her heart, the other over mine. Home there, she said, pointing at the vanishing planet. Then at our joined hearts, home here. Rivera appeared beside us, a tablet in hand. Xenobiology wants to know if she has any dietary restrictions. Legal wants to know if she's claimed asylum or requesting citizenship. Medical wants captain. I interrupted gently. Can all of that wait until tomorrow? She looked at me, then at Kira, then at the way we held each other against the vast dark of space. Her expression softened. Yet, it can wait. As she walked away, Kira tugged my hand, leading me toward the crew quarters. She'd explored the ship already, curious as always, and found the cabin that would be ours. The bed was too firm, the air too recycled, the light too artificial. But when she pulled me down beside her and curled into my arms, her purr vibrating through both of us, it felt exactly like home. Cade, she murmured sleepily. Not prisoner, she said, using a word I'd taught her days ago. Not captive. No, I agreed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Never that. Kira, choose. Her tail tightened around my leg. Choose Cade. Choose love. Choose adventure. I smiled against her hair, feeling the ship carry us toward unknown futures, impossible challenges, and bureaucratic nightmares that would make the planet's psychic interference seem simple. Best choice I never made, I whispered. She looked up at me, eyes gleaming with that familiar mischief. Cade, make choice now. To keep you, to love you, to face whatever comes together. I kissed her properly, deeply, until we were both breathless. Every single day, Kira, every single day. Outside, the stars wheeled past in their eternal dance. Inside, an impossible love story continued its first chapter, written in 2 languages, 2 species, 2 hearts that had found each other across the vast loneliness of space. And if sometimes I missed the glowing forests and singing trees, I only had to look at Kira, my light, my home, my impossible salvation, to remember that the best discoveries aren't planets or stars. They're the people who refuse to let you go, even when you don't yet know you want to stay at the end.